Warning: this program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. This is Unshackled Fury.
Another Brewfest has come and gone as the Headless Horseman sits on the horizon, while we continue delving deep into the war within. So welcome back for episode 154 of your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker, and with me once again is the newly promoted executive editor of Windows Central, Mr. Jez Corden. Welcome back again, good sir, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. And how are you doing, man? It's been another week in Warcrafty universe. I suppose it's kind of like the hype of the expansion drop is waned now. Now season 1 is kind of waned. And we're heading towards that sort of weird period while we wait for the next major content drop. But
Yeah, that's
I had a lot of fun, man.
That's where we are. It's after 6 weeks, right? That's kind of about the time frame we're in here. Is now there's that forced lull in the action, kind of a chance to catch our breath, so to speak, while everything's been pretty hectic, fast paced. I think everybody's been going full speed, and Liquid won the race for world first, so congratulations to them. It seems like it was the same teams again. I think Method might have pulled 3. But yeah, for 6 weeks, we've been going pretty strong and continuing to have a good time watching the gear come flowing in via delves. And I've tried to take on Zekvir with just the 1 question mark level, and I have not been able to do it. But I've made good progress. I'm getting there. I'm like 599 gear level, so I'm like right there. I'm able to do a solid 8 delve, and I think that's probably good for me at this point. Wanted to give folks a quick scheduling note up top. We are going to be sort of skipping a week here between now and the next episode, so it will be 3 weeks, because in 2 weekends and 2 Sundays, I have got to go to a hockey game. And
Hockey,
because believe it or not, there is hockey in California. Is
that ice hockey?
It is ice hockey, professional NHL hockey. The San Jose Sharks our long-suffering Shark franchise, which has made 1 Stanley Cup since its inception in 93, and that's about as close as we've come. So we're basically just going for a good time. That's it.
Isn't the Stanley Cup one of those water bottle things?
A what?
A water bottle. I don't know. I saw this whole meme with Stanley Cups, man. I don't know.
I've missed this entirely.
I don't know. Never mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not as connected into the culture as you are. That's why you're here, Jez. You have to educate me on all of these things that I miss with all of the online conversations.
Chronically online.
Yeah, the chronically online zeitgeist that I'm missing. That's what you're here for, among other things, of course. For this week, then, because it is a little bit lighter, and as you mentioned, season 1, we're settling in now, and the dust is settling and things are cooling off. This is a lighter news worthy era, as we tend to find during expansion cycles. So this episode may prove to be a little bit shorter, maybe a lot shorter. I don't know. We'll see where the conversation takes us. But just in case anybody has any high expectations of us going through the day's news like CNN or something, that's probably not going to be this one. But let's start us off with an all-time metal album banger. One of the quintessential metal bands, been around forever. And this album is, I believe, one of their best, if for one track only amongst all the greats. So for this week, your metal album of the week is Power Slave by Iron Maiden, which, if you've never seen an Iron Maiden show, you are missing out. It is, they are quintessential metal. They've been around forever, like I said. This album came out September of 1984, so it's probably older than half of this audience, but it is phenomenal, start to finish. And the last song on the album, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, it's like 13 minutes or however long it is, but it's a classic. And Ace is High and 2 Minutes to Midnight, there's a couple other good songs on there, but that is one you got to keep in the rotation. Bruce Dickinson, the lead singer. So many acts that have come since have tried to duplicate or replicate the voice and the energy of this man, but it is quite hard to do, because even, I don't know, a handful of years ago when I saw them at a show, these are not young men, and he's running and jumping, he's all over the stage, he's screaming and yelling and doing his thing, and he can hit some pretty high notes. Plus he flies their planes sometimes. He's a pilot, so sometimes he flies their own Iron Maiden jets from place to place, which is kind of sweet. But for you, Jez, does Power Slave ring a bell for you, or does Iron Maiden rank in your listening rotation at all?
Man, I have to confess, I've never really listened to Iron Maiden.
Ooh.
I think like what I've heard of them, and like every British kid knows a bit of Iron Maiden. It just didn't resonate with me as a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I remember thinking this is a bit cheesy. I kind of put it in the same box as Guns N' Roses, you know.
Oh.
As a kid, where I was like listening to, I wanted more angst, you know, Nirvana, you know, early Radiohead, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Depression music. Yeah. But yeah, I respect what they've done, of course I do, as a musician myself.
Huge.
But I say I'm a musician myself, but not really. But yeah, not my cup of tea. Not enough angst.
Not enough angst. Well,
Too much power.
They are definitely not angsty. That is not the Iron Maiden way. It is very adventurous. There's a lot of historical themes. What's that?
Epic and cinematic is the way I kind of see Iron Maiden.
That's probably the best way to, you know. Are you sure you haven't listened to him? That's a pretty accurate description.
And it's like I say, all British kids know Iron Maiden. You know?
Just through osmosis of the culture, being British,
yeah,
you just get it.
Beatles, Black Sabbath, everyone knows a little bit of all of those dudes. Elton John. Wow.
Did you ever put out a metal album? Yeah, put that one up here if you did. Is the Lion King soundtrack considered metal? I don't think so, but
Did Elton John do that? I thought that was.
Oh, he had that great
freaking
song that played forever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Back in the day. Oh yeah, that was certified metal banger of all time. The Lion King soundtrack. We'll put that up next time. But for the rest of you, if you have not listened to it, put this on your regular playlist. Power Slave by Iron Maiden. It is a true metal classic and your metal album of the week. Now, I got something that if you saw me on Twitter in recent times, you will probably know what I'm going to reference here. But I do have, maybe it's a personal thing. I know that this, didn't happen to just me. But I have something for the rage section I want to get into. So let's do it.
Let's rage.
So it may not surprise you to know that putting together a podcast, it takes a little bit of work. Even this goofy thing that we got right here, it does take a little bit of effort. And one of the things that we need when we make these things is we need a place to put these podcast episodes, and then they have to be distributed by all kinds of different platforms. So, Spotify, right? That's a common one that people know and you can listen to podcasts on. In fact, you may be listening to this fine program on Spotify. But one of the biggest, and for us, certainly numbers wise, the biggest outlet that we have is through Apple Podcasts. I'd say it's, 80% of our listenership comes through Apple Podcasts. I'd have to look at the analytics, but it is quite a bit. And so imagine my surprise, Jez, as we had uploaded last episode, and I wake up the next morning because I usually have them go off 12:05 a.m. on that Monday morning. And I do that basically because of the analytics of catching a whole day's worth of subscribers to see what that actually looks like. It's part of the machine, folks. And so I wake up in the morning, episode's not there. I go, oh shit. Case Lock, I believe, was the listener of ours that brought this to my attention. Said, hey, it's not on Apple Podcasts. Oh, god dang it. So I go and I look. Sure enough, it's in podcast.co, where we upload the actual file itself, and then it's distributed from there. And then I go look at our accounts on Apple, and wouldn't you know it, it has disappeared completely. Rip. Unshackled Fury into the void as if it never existed. And when I tried to add our feed, oh, sorry, it's an error. Cannot add at this time. Please try again later. And I'm in a not a happy to report, but at least it didn't happen to me. So I'm not feeling like somebody from on high that really hated this show and me, and not you, Jez, because you're a saint, you're a prince, but me and this show, perhaps there was a vendetta over at Apple. I don't know. And everything just disappeared. It was gone. And when I contacted Apple, they had no explanation for it. Zero. None. And all of the listeners that we lost, all of the numbers that we lost, all of the boo-boo stuff that happened there, no explanation, no apology, no nothing. Eventually, I just got an email saying, oh, yeah, you can restore it now. And so I did. And so it's back. And hopefully you're listening to this now through Apple Podcasts, and we no longer have this problem. But god damn, weeping baby Jesus in a tuxedo shirt, Jez. How can these corporations get away with this stuff? They're trying to suppress my First Amendment.
That is really weird, because my other podcast, obviously, we talk about some pretty messed up stuff that gets us demonetized on YouTube sometimes. But Apple's Apple's left us alone so far as I know. So that is weird. It'd be nice if they gave some kind of explanation there.
It would have been nice. I was surprised they got back to me at all, to be quite frank, because it's Apple and they're enormous, and I'm just, some podunk show. But to get that back up and running was an enormous pain in the ass, and there was no good explanation for it whatsoever. So if this happens to you, fellow podcasters out there, go look in your account in Apple Podcasts and see if they archived the show and didn't tell you, because that's what happened to us, essentially. So now that I've ranted against big tech for the day, which, living in California, I feel like that's a daily affirmation, is to just yell into the clouds about Tesla or Intel or one of these ones about what the fuck are you doing to me today? Well, now it's Apple, so I feel better now. So we do have a little bit of news to talk about. Jez, you had something that I think was pretty important to touch on. So why don't we go ahead and jump into our news? When we were just kibitzing here a little bit before we started our recording, you brought up something that I wasn't sure whether or not this was going to be the rage topic of the week, but I felt like people were tired, or probably are tired, of hearing me complain about what is happening to my favorite class and spec these days, given that I've already shit all over the Slayer tree and how boring it is and how unimaginative it is. And then lo and behold, I've seen my poor spec just take one hack of a nerf after another, and I'm like, dear God, Jesus, where does this stop? When will you leave us alone? I saw that there's a little buff to the, I don't know, the tier set bonuses or some shit, but like the rest of the stuff is just getting the legs cut out from under us, Jez. Understand there's a bunch of other buffs and nerfs, but those are the only ones that I'm paying attention to. But what the hell's going on out there?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's pretty usual that there'd be buffs and nerfs around the launch of an expansion, right? But I suppose there's an extra layer of complexity here with the hero talents and all that kind of stuff. And if you, if you go over to your favorite World of Warcraft news sort of site of choice, there's a bunch of buffs and nerfs that I've gone through. Some of them would be hot fixed. Some of them require weekly maintenance, which is Tuesday in the US, Wednesday in Europe, of course. My favorite tanking spec, Blood San Lane, is getting a massive buff because everyone's using Deathbringer right now for those sexy frost sides popping out. So San Lane's getting a pretty massive buff. Vampiric Strike damage increased by 30%. Don't know if that'll affect the uptake of it because I think some reasons people use Deathbringers for survivability, and Blood is like a yo-yo tanking spec. When you initially pull and you don't have your bone armor and stuff, you just get absolutely walloped. But there's a bunch of other, walloped. Yeah, it's a good word. There's a load of buffs here. Like Havoc's been buffed, Vengeance been buffed, so Feral's been buffed a little bit. Augmentation Evoker has been slightly nerfed, which is interesting. Devastation's been a little bit buffed. Preservation has been buffed and nerfed. And a lot of people have been complaining about how dominant Restoration is at the high end of Mythic Plus. Like if you go and look at the if you look at the stats, it's something like, because like the people who really min-max, they don't just min-max their own class, they min-max which class they play. So they will literally change class if the perception is that this is flavor of the month, I'm gonna switch class or whatever for this season. So everyone at the high end's playing Restoration Shaman right now, and they took a massive 2% nerf on Earth Shield damage reduction. And Acid Rain as damage has been reduced. But the thing I'm happy about is that my boy Demonology Warlock, which is, it's weird, right? Because I'm pretty high on the damage meter in my raid right now, and I don't know if that's because my gear's beyond the rest of the raid, or I just got a head start and I've just stayed ahead of them for whatever reason. But so like my perception of Demonology right now is that, hey, Demonology is pretty damn good, in heroic raids or whatever, at least. And we killed the Egg Boy today, and also the Nexus Princess, and we killed them today on heroic. So I think we just, what's that? There's 2 bosses left, I think, before Red Ahead of the Curve, or 3. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, my perception is Demonology has been pretty strong this season. But if you actually go and look at the rankings, Demonology's low down there with Fury. At least right now. Oh boy. Because Fury got a bunch of nerfs. I feel bad, like Outlaw Rogues right there at the bottom. Shadow Priests circling the drain as well. Shout out to Raven in my guild. She's a long-suffering Shadow Priest. But for whatever reason, Shadow Priest didn't get a buff, and I think Shadow Priest need a buff, but there's been a lot of buffs and nerfs going in. Mountain Thane got a pretty massive buff on the warrior side.
I did see
So if you're a Fury Warrior who wants to be a Mountain Thane, which I always thought was an interesting theme, it's very dwarven. They have got a pretty big buff because pretty much everyone on Earth's playing Slayer right now, and I think that's one of my concerns with the whole hero talent system was that it was just going to end up like Covenants, where it was like you can't pick the aesthetic you want, you have to pick which is the better damage.
Right.
And I feel like I've been really lucky as Demonology because both specs are pretty close. So like I can go in as a Diabolist Demonology Warlock or the other one, like a Soul Harvester, and pretty much do the same damage. You know, I've pretty much been chopping and changing based on how I feel on that particular day. I think like Diabolist, you know, you min-max it with a bit more management. So if I'm feeling lazy, I play Soul Harvester, you know. But the damage usually comes out about the same. But some of the other specs out there, man, the damage is wildly different. You know, you can like, there's like a measurable difference to a large degree, you know. And I'm hoping that Blizzard can keep, you know, incrementally balancing things. But it's really funny, right? Because with regards to balance, if you go and look at the charts, the DPS charts, and you actually look at the chart, it'll be like the person, the class that's at the top of the list is only like 8% maybe away from the bottom rung of the list. So like, even though the graph has this curve on it, or the graph might have this curve on it, which makes it look like, oh god, this spec sucks, it's really only 8%. And I think unless you're absolutely min-maxing every single shred of juice, you can still pull off like good DPS as an Outlaw Rogue or Shadow Priest or whatever. So, sorry, I'll be a bit sleepy over here. It's 11 p.m. in Germany. But yeah, like balance it's a lot better than it was back in vanilla, man. I remember like you just couldn't be a rep paladin in vanilla. You couldn't be like half of these specs. They didn't have the tools to even really do any damage, you know. Everyone was playing Mage and Rogue if you wanted to do serious damage, or you know, Warlocks could do damage too. But then like the best Warlock spec was like pour everything into Curse of Shadows and just spam Shadow Bolt. There's no rotation. It was just Shadow Bolt.
Love it.
And even like casting Corruption in some patches was a DPS loss. But yeah, it's the specs are pretty balanced now compared to what they used to be, but it's just interesting to see when there's little tweaks here and there.
Yeah, it seems that they're still trying to find their footing a little bit, because I again, this could be a recency bias, but I feel like this is more fine-tuning more often than what we've typically seen in the past. I could be wrong, but it feels like there's constantly some little changes being made. And
yeah,
one of the thoughts that I've had kind of sticking in my head is the comment that you have made a few times about the hero talents being potentially rushed and not ready by the time the expansion launched. And so now it's all right, we put it out there, but there's still some other work that we probably could have gotten done on like a PTR or something like that, but we're just gonna have to do it in the live game because that's the position that we got put in. Do you think that plays a factor here, maybe?
Well, a bunch of people missed it, but I actually interviewed Blizzard's devs this week as a sort of like post-mortem kind of on the expansion, sort of like what their thoughts are about, you know, the near future of it, and or how different things have landed. And it was a pretty passive interview. Didn't get anything particularly spicy out of them this time around, but there was a couple of interesting comments, because I did bring up that point, and I said, you know, this is an interview with Morgan Day, and I did bring up this point that, you know, the hero talents, you kind of admitted with the rework of the Dark Ranger that some of the hero talents haven't had a good enough pass on them. And I was like, I feel both thematically and mechanically, some trees are a lot stronger than others even now. And Morgan Day said, Dark Ranger is the big one for 11.0.05 and the 20th anniversary update. Super excited for the update and the new visuals there. And because Dark Ranger, of course, not only got a complete overhaul about how they work, but also like a lot of cool visuals based on Sylvanas, and they look absolutely badass now. Whereas before, they had pretty much no animations whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they got Black Arrow, which was an existing ability, so it was like, this is just not exciting at all. And this is what Morgan's Day said, which I'm surprised Wowhead and MMO Champion didn't pick up on it, but
I'm not. They're afraid of you.
I think so.
I know the truth.
Oh man,
the Gothic sprite over there at Wowhead that runs that place, she's afraid of you. I know it. I just know it. You have an aura, Jez. You have an aura.
I hope not, because I'm a big fan of Wowhead. But this is what Morgan Day said. But for the immediate future outside of Dark Ranger, we're also looking at making adjustments to Rogue, Restoration, and Balance Druids, as well as Enhancement and Elemental Shamans, with regards to hero talents. Additionally, based on player feedback, we're also looking into just the Shaman Ascendancy form, which they just showed off. The Shaman Ascendancy form being like, it looked pretty ridiculous on the first pass, at least for everyone except, I kind of feel like it matches Trolls a little bit, because it looks like one of those toy trolls, you know, you used to get as a kid. But for everyone else, I think it looked pretty ass. So they've added a version that has a helmet now and hides the hair away, which looks a lot better. But I think even then, like thematically, Ascendancy form just doesn't make much sense, because that was in the lore. It's a Twilight's Hammer cult thing. It's like a holdover from Cataclysm. I don't think that shit makes sense at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why they're clinging to it so much, because a lot of shamans I know just hate the damn thing, but they feel like they have to take it because that's their DPS cooldown, right? Anyway, that's a tangent, but yeah, it sounds like they are going to be doing more in-depth reworks on the hero talents, and I do feel like the Dark Ranger rework, that's pretty much an admission that they were underbaked. And if you look at how balanced the Warlock ones are, I mean, yeah, the Demonology like is apparently bottom of the pack, but at least between the two hero trees, the hero trees themselves are like, they feel perfectly balanced, you know, or they're very slightly, some fights maybe one's slightly better, one fight maybe the other's better, but overall they're so close, and I think that's where they need to be with all the specs. But thematically is a different argument altogether.
Well, since you got the chance to talk to Morgan Day, is there anything else? Because you had a pretty good interview. I know you talked about something about cinematic stuff. I think the Stay a While and Listen was in here. You had some really good questions in here. What else can you tell folks about that interview?
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember all of his answers.
Very good.
But we talked about like delves and how they've landed, and also balancing the rewards from them, and I also complained that, you know, there's another balance issue there where some classes have a much easier time with delves than others. Like my Demonology Warlock, you know, I plowed through all the delves really easily. My Disc Priest like had it's like a chore, because everything just takes so long to die, and it's not like it's, you know, yeah, you can heal yourself and stuff like that. So like, it's not like it's impossible to do as a Disc Priest. It's just slower. It's just so slow, because Disc Priests are not a damage class, and Bran in DPS mode does not make up for the damage of a real damage dealer.
Yeah.
So like, there's that aspect of it as well, and Morgan Day was saying like they do want to get it back to that level. They want to make it feel, you know, balanced for all the different roles. But I suppose making it balanced for all the different roles is like going to be an ongoing thing. And I suppose hopefully what they want to get to a point where it's just a system, where it's like the delve knows, okay, this is Disc Priest, we need to adjust the dungeon on this basis. You know, and I think this is one area where AI could probably help. If like AI is like generally seen as a bad thing for gaming. But this is probably something where like you could feed all the data into an AI, and the AI like works out the math, you know, for you. But I don't know that's out of my wheelhouse to know if that would actually work or not. But you'd think that's something AI could help with, right? You'd think
In theory, yeah, sounds like a good plan to me. Well, that's awesome that you got a chance to interview him. And for folks that haven't seen the article, I don't know if there's an official title here: World of Warcraft interview discussing solo dungeons, warbands, more talent trees, and more with Morgan Day by our lovely executive editor. Executive editor Jez Gordon. Getting out there and spreading the word. So awesome that you got a chance to talk to him, and it is a good time for sure. And I'm glad that you touched on your profession, because there's a discussion that I've been wanting to at least touch on for a while that we've kicked a little bit down the road. And that has to do with the upcoming, in 2 days as we record this, one day when this episode drops, the upcoming book by well-known in the gaming space reporter Jason Schreier, and the quote, Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment book that he has coming out. This was announced some time ago, and even then I had I had sort of two minds about this when it came out, because I have had my issues with Jason Schreier, not personal, we don't know each other, but just like the way that some things have played out. I think he has over sensationalized certain things that didn't quite fit the mold for what I felt was getting the energy that it was getting. While other times, hey, people have talked to him and leaked stuff, and he's had his name out there. And like I think it was back when he was with, I believe, Kotaku, and would put something out. You knew that it was gonna be some insider shit or whatever it was, and like, oh, here we go, it's gonna be something big. And so basically, this book, which is coming out October 8th, is just a bunch of that. It's all these insider stories of all of these things that have happened with Blizzard basically since their inception, talking about Mike Morhaime, the relationship with Bobby Kotick, with Activision taking over, what happened with the Project Titan, and how essentially that apparently, as we knew, and this really confirms, was the catalyst for a lot of things. One being that was purportedly the springboard that Bobby Kotick and Activision used to begin to exert more influence because of all of the time, resources, and energy that have been essentially wasted on Titan. Of course, part of that did become Overwatch. But there's more, and there's, all the salacious stuff about swingers parties and getting banned from a hotel, and all these things that happen with there's a lawsuit with Netflix where apparently, Jez, at one point we might have been getting a StarCraft animated series, and that that would have sufficed. I would have been okay with that. But there was allegations that Netflix poached an animation lead over at Blizzard, and so that scuttled that whole thing. And so the whole book is filled with a lot of these kinds of stories. It's insider information, obviously what happened with all the allegations and the lawsuits around the harassment and otherwise a few years ago. And my understanding is that the book ends with the most recent huge wave of layoffs. And so the question that I've been wrestling with still is, and I've talked to a few different people about this, for the most part, it seems that people are enjoying what they've been seeing. I know some folks were given advanced copies. This show is not important enough or well known enough to get said thing. So nobody reached out to us, because I would have taken it if somebody would have asked, because I don't know that I want to pay money for this, because I don't know that I want to give it to this person. Because the challenge that I'm continuing to have, quite frankly, is something about this just feels wrong to me. And I have to admit that I love good gossip at times as much as anyone, and I am completely guilty of it. I work in an industry that is built on gossip, I swear to God, most of the time. But there's something about it when it comes to people's lives and livelihoods and damage that was done to like real human beings that I question the motives for this publication. And one of the things that again, this is gut check. I have not read this doc. I have not read this book. I have seen the same excerpts as everybody else. And the stuff that has been put out there, I'm not going to lie, it's some interesting stuff. There was a Reddit AMA that Jason did, and he, touched on a bunch of the things that go on in there. Obviously it was, hey, here's a little bit about it. Go read my book. And, all of that. This dude has been everywhere. There's been a lot of books about a lot of things in our space. I have never seen anyone out there as much as Jason Schreier for this book. I mean, all the usual outlets for us, the people, would have articles on Windows Central, Polygon, Gizmodo, some of these places that I go to, The Verge, all these other tech sites. Shit. I even have a subscription to Defector, which, if you know what that is, cool. If you don't, it's a group of guys that used to basically be in charge of the website Deadspin. They went and started their own thing, and it's a pretty good website, and they got a lot of good writers on there, including Ray Ratto from the Bay Area, if you know who that is. Great to see him. But shit, even they had an interview with him on a podcast. And I'm like, what in the fuck? This guy is freaking everywhere. And on one hand, it's like, hey, he's doing, publisher's doing her job. He's doing his job. He's getting out there. He's getting everywhere. But the thing about it that strikes me as kind of odd is that in a lot of these reviews and in a lot of these places, everyone seems really over eager to kiss this guy's ass. And it's all this glowing stuff about how great he is and how good his reporting is and all of these things. And nobody is that universally well loved, number one. And number two, when I see people act like that in my professional life, it's because they don't want to get in trouble with this person. That they know that they wield some sort of power or authority or influence or something that makes them nervous to speak ill in any way, shape, or form about this person. And I could be entirely wrong. Maybe they all love him and he's great and he's the most wonderful guy since time immemorial. But there's something about it when I read these things and I see these things and I just kind of have a past history. It makes me hesitate. And so while there are a lot of wild, salacious stories in this thing, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get over my own hesitation to pay money to read this book. And I have had people that I trust their opinions on have come and said that what they've read and seen and this and that they had no problem with it. And so this could very well just be me saying this as the one lone podcast in the dark in the community that's having a problem with any of this. So I guess the one question that I would ask of you, Jez, who is the professional journalist in this space, is where is the line between responsible reporting to the public at large and trying to instead profit off of people's misfortunes? Or is it always just kind of a blend of both and that's okay?
The line is a few $100,000, I would think. I'm joking.
In terms of like a lawsuit?
No, in terms of book sales.
Oh, book sales. Oh, I see. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, the point of journalism is if there's information it depends what kind of line you take on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you are someone like the WikiLeaks dude, I can't remember his name, Julian Assange, right?
Mm-hmm.
His whole shtick was like, if information exists, it should be public, right? And he went, obviously, he got in a lot of trouble
Yeah.
for sharing a lot of diplomatic, military, classified cables from all sorts of nation states. The United States pretty much made his life a living hell for the last, God, how many years now?
Yeah.
20 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Decade plus.
So he suffered very much for his craft, But but because of his work, we discovered the NSA, Dragnet, and a bunch of other stuff that, you'd think he's well within the public interest. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is gossip about a video game company really newsworthy? Now, that ultimately depends on the individual. Are you interested to know, about Blizzard swinger parties? Personally, I think what consenting adults do in their personal fucking time, I could not give the remotest fuck about. Now, that makes it sellable, right? Sex is sexy.
Sex
you
sells.
get
Hey, that's how
sex
it's
sells,
always
and
been.
you've got companies like the Daily Mail or the Sun, British tabloids, legendary for publishing all kinds of stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know the context that stuff is in there, because obviously swinger party is a swinger party, but if like something happened as a result of that swinger party, which led to someone being because obviously one of the things about Blizzard in the recent years with regards to controversy is the abusive practices that have led to people being maligned and mistreated and stuff like that, right? So I don't know what the context of that kind of reporting is, because I haven't read the book, and I'm probably not gonna read the book because I'm not really that interested in learning that stuff, personally speaking. I'm more as a news guy, I'm more interested in the future, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, I suppose maybe it's part of it's working in tech. Like for me, a lot of this stuff's just old news, and it's not my personal interest. But at the same time, I don't begrudge people who are interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time as that, like when I think about it, and I've tried to do reporting like this. I spoke to about within the region of 40 and 50 developers on Halo Infinite. Because I don't know if you know much about Halo Infinite, but the game was very expensive, and it was a big catastrophe when it launched. Like it got decent reviews out the gate. Didn't resonate with all the fans, but the big issue with it was the live service. There was no team in place to do the live service. So it fell short of pretty much every other live service shooter out there, lost all its user base, and the most notorious thing about it really was, these rumors that it cost like $500,000 to make. $500 million, sorry.
Ooh.
So, a really expensive game to make, considering how much of a flop it was, how unfinished it was. The story just ends, and we're probably never going to get a resolution to that story. So I tried to find out what went wrong with that, because Microsoft cleaned house after Halo Infinite. Bunch of high up people at Microsoft lost their jobs. Bonnie Ross famously was pushed out of the company. All that kind of stuff. So I was like, I want to try and do some proper reporting on this and find out what the truth is. But my issue was all the people I spoke to, and I spoke to about 60 different people between not 60. Well, I don't know. It was about 50 people, 40, 50, something like that. I can't remember. This is like going back a few years now. I spoke to dozens of people, and my issue was I couldn't get a consistent narrative. Every single person I spoke to had a different version of events, a different person to point blame at, and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, like, I can't in good faith, because I wasn't there. I wasn't a fly on the wall. I didn't have a
Right.
CCTV camera at 343.
Right.
To be able to, in good faith, say, this is what happened at 343.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happened. Because everyone had a wildly different take on it. One of the reasons for that is the company was very siloed, which, again, was an issue there. They used a lot of contractors which didn't have access to the full breadth of information themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, you know, big issue. And that's something I can report, you know, a little morsel. But to be able to, you know, do a complete, consistent story on that, I feel like I couldn't do it in good faith. I wasn't confident that the human witnesses I was speaking to were completely reliable, you know, or which ones were reliable, which weren't, which were disgruntled employees and had an agenda, which people had a personal vendetta against certain employees, because there was definitely a sense I got from speaking to some people that they wanted me to print something specifically to attack someone they didn't like. And that's happened to me before. And in fact, it's a good source of leaks when there's a pissed off employee.
I bet.
Or that, yeah, and they'll come to you and be like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, well, this is cool information. Xbox fans should know this. But other times it's like, this dude's just trying to impact someone else's career. They've got an vendetta and they're trying to use me to create that narrative for them. And these are all things I've had to learn in the job. Like, I never had a mentor. I never had anyone mentor me about journalism. I haven't done any journalism qualifications. I've just sort of struggled my way through. And I find like journalists in the space that I'm in are very elitist. They don't want to share things. They don't want to help each other. They don't want to mentor.
Yeah, I believe
So
that.
I've pretty much been completely solo. They're very sort of insular. And like when you say like people seem afraid of Jason, I genuinely get the sense, yeah, they are. You know, they are afraid of Jason because, you know, because of his influence and stuff like that. You don't want to be on his bad side because he can, you know, he can easily sort of, he's got a huge fan base, you know, and it's like
Sure,
any
yeah.
YouTuber or content creator with a huge fan base, and they can use it against you. I mean, I've done it myself. You know, when someone's been a dick to me, I fucking like quote tweet them into my feed when I'm pissed off and just be like, yeah, sick 'em, boys.
Uh-oh.
But like, you know, but it's different when it's like a random anonymous person on Twitter and when it's like it directly impacting someone's career, you know.
Right.
So I'm not saying Jason would do anything like that. I don't really know the guy. I've met him a couple of times at events. I don't think he likes me very much because you know, I write about Microsoft and I get the impression that he doesn't like Microsoft at all, personally. And I think by extension, he doesn't like me
No.
personally. I don't know what I've done to make people in this industry dislike me, but
No.
I just get the sense no journalists really like me, to be honest. It's not just Jason. But that's not for, you know, trying. I guess I'm just weird or an asshole or people don't like me for whatever reason. But I get why people are interested in this stuff, you know. The people will be interested for different reasons. Like, you might be interested in what happened with Titan because maybe you're looking forward to Titan.
Yeah.
You're interested in what's going on with StarCraft because, you know, there's a lot of unsatisfied StarCraft fans out there who are very, very patiently waiting for the next one. And one of the things Jason said on one of these podcasts was Blizzard's incubating a StarCraft shooter. Now, one thing I was told a couple of years ago was that I was just given a sort of vague StarCraft isn't dead, watch this space
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I actually said that on a podcast about a year ago while I was really wasted. And then a bunch of websites picked it up. Jez Corden claimed StarCraft 3 is in development. And it was like, no, I was kind of hinted it wouldn't be StarCraft 3. So I was kind of worried that it was a mobile game or some shit. But it sounds like it could be the shooter that Jason was talking about. At that trying to incubate. But I can see like why you'd be interested in that stuff. And the video game industry is strangely secretive. It is really secretive, and I don't know why. Like it's so weird to me how how controlling video game companies are of all their narratives. And I suppose part of it is like the amount of risk involved in a video game flopping is huge.
Yeah.
But I think like they really want to micromanage perceptions to some degree. But then I think about that. But then I think like, well, why do they do so much fucking stupid stuff then? You know, if they're really that worried about you know the perception of their business, why do they keep doing so much stupid stuff? You know, the stuff that pisses everyone off, like you know the pre-order bonuses, nickel and diming people, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, do they actually really care about that stuff? So I don't get why they're so secretive and insular. And I think part of it is just almost traditional. They just think, oh, we're a video game company, so we have to be like that. And it's something I've come to realize since getting back into WWE, because now my feed is flooded with WWE wrestlers who just go on podcasts and they're just super frank about everything.
Yeah.
Super out of character. They talk about the business, they talk about the history, being really upfront.
Kayfabe
shooting
is dead,
on
baby.
people. Yeah, kayfabe is
dead.
totally dead. Like, why? And it's great. It's really good for the business.
It's awesome.
You know, it's awesome. Like, why is the video game industry not like that? Like, even my interview with Morgan Day, and I really appreciate that they did do this. But, you know, other interviews I've had with Blizzard, or any video game company, there's always, like, this sense that these responses have been sort of, they've gone through a PR agency, or they've been very coached.
Totally.
And I get why they do that, you know. You don't want to mislead the fans, or you know, overhype something, or you know, that doesn't materialize. Like Peter Molyneux used to famously do, the guy who made the Fable games back in the day. He's kind of notorious for like overhyping his games and driving the PR people crazy. But like it's interesting. Like you look at some of those Warcraft podcasts, and most of them are like very obviously coached. But then you go and watch the Chris Metzen interview, and this dude's like a senior dude at Blizzard. You know, he's retired once and come back. He's not really afraid, you know, to say the wrong thing or piss off the PR people. And that conversation was so much more natural. It flowed so much better, and I think it made him a lot more relatable. So, I think like there is a value to the work that even the tabloidy kind of stuff or the gossipy stuff that game journalists are doing, because it's sort of like teasing the game industry to hopefully become less ridiculously secretive. I've got people who, and I've sort of my opinions about leaking and stuff has evolved over time, because like if I hadn't leaked anything, I would never have made a career. But at the same time, I feel guilty about doing it, because I don't want to rob. Yeah, I don't want to rob teams and artists of their creation, the right to be the ones who announce their creation. You know?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of the job, you know. And then it's like, well, what kind of information do you draw the line at? If I'm willing to leak XYZ, why wouldn't I be willing to leak the swinger parties? Or why wouldn't I be willing to talk about this or that or the other? It's kind of like that argument. It's like either, you know, everything's free speech or nothing's free speech, you know? So I don't begrudge what he's done. I think some journalists want to, because they wish they could make thousands of dollars doing a book. I certainly could never do that. The blog post is about as much as I can manage before my attention wavers. I could never write a whole fucking book. There's just no universe where I'd be able to do that. I'm a gamer first, and you know, everything else, I'm gamer first and everything else flows after. But Jason is a journalist first and everything else flows after. And I think that's where I think some people misunderstand the way he approaches things, because he is a journalist in the truest, purest sense of the word, where it's like all information is on the table, you know. So yeah, that's kind of my long-winded thought process about that. It doesn't sit with me. I wouldn't do it, you know. I couldn't do it. I'd feel too guilty. But I also feel like that's the job of a journalist. I know other journalists that are like that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're just like the information is king.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
So, I
sometimes
wish I
that's
could be like that. I just can't.
it's because you have integrity,
Morals.
morals. No, and that is kind of, I think, what's gnawing at me is I know I come on here and over the years I've said all kinds of stupid shit, and I will continue to do that. And I'm morally flexible in certain ways. I'm not gonna lie, but there is something about this, and maybe I'm just predisposed to go in this way. But no, I appreciate what you're saying. And I don't know, I maybe it's just the contrarian me that's like, everybody's just being too happy and like, yay about this, and I'm like, I don't know, man, like this is some just shit. But I'll tell you what, if this ends up like in a bargain bin somewhere in the years to come, or I can read it for free online, I probably will, just so I can understand maybe some reference points that other people are talking about. But if you're interested, there's both the written and the verbal form of this book being made available. So play nice. The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment, coming to you October 8th. So regardless of my misgivings, I am giving the book a plug. So there you go, mission accomplished. Related to this to a degree, I also wanted to get your take, Jez, on something else that I held over from the last episode, but it was kind of funny to see this more recently, in that there are now a bunch of tabards, in-game items, right? Tabards that you can get for purchasing a variety of things. One of them was like gummy worms from Trolleys. But another one that they had was this, and I don't think you have Kroger grocery stores where you are, but Kroger is a grocery store chain. And if you sign up for their rewards program, this is like a regional fucking grocery store chain, because I don't have it anywhere near me. You can get a tabard for essentially putting yourself on their mailing list. And this, again, is also one of these things where I should be happy that this is an easy way to get a tabard in game. And maybe this is because I'm getting old. I don't know. But I'm like, this feels kind of scummy too, where you're asking for people's information on a grocery store chain that I don't know, even probably don't even use, to get a reward, and now you're on their mailing list, and now they have your information, and God knows what they do with it, and they're probably selling it to other people, and that's how you end up getting 10,000 catalogs during Christmas time that you never fucking asked for.
You get a tabard.
But I do get a tabard.
I mean, this is one of the other things that bugs me about some journalists, right? They'll join in on the chorus of people who are like, oh my god, it's so dumb, these microtransactions exist, it's so dumb, right? But then they'll also say things like, oh my god, these companies are terrible for laying people off. That, though that tabard will pay someone's salary,
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big issues the video game industry has right now is the lack of growth, and costs always go up,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're not growing, then you've got a big issue. And making a video game in California, just using World of Warcraft as an example, fucking expensive. It is fucking expensive, and I've said it before. And that's why, like, Blizzard's new studio, not Blizzard, Activision just opened a studio in Poland called Elsewhere Entertainment. And that is a direct response to how expensive it is to make games in California and other places where they have studios. So, in a universe where your costs are going up, things like this are pretty, at the end of the day, quite harmless ways that can generate revenue in a world where the player base isn't going up. The addressable audience for World of Warcraft is probably at its absolute maximum. There's probably like no one else that will come in now. Maybe if they release the game on console, on PlayStation, Xbox, they can find a new audience. But I think the game runs on a potato. I don't think like you can possibly find any more people at this point, at least not while the leveling experience is in the state it's in, and I think you're going to mention that in a bit. But so yeah, I think it's fine personally.
Okay.
I would defend like optional monetization. I personally, where I draw the line is like buying power. I think that's where it gets a bit iffy because you're separating gamers by their purchasing power then, which I think is really unfair. You know, I shouldn't be able to buy an advantage over someone else, which is why I don't touch free-to-play games generally.
Yeah.
But if it's cosmetic, I think that's fine. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, to be clear, buying like the gummy worms, I think it's hilarious. Like, that's fine. To me, that's fine because that doesn't require like any of your personal information. It's the signing up for something. That's the one. That's the specific one that I find a little challenging. But the rest of them, yeah, sure. Fuck it. Why not? Because you make, again, a great point, as you have made a few times, is that making these games is so goddamn expensive. They need to find ways to continue to generate revenue. And, you know, if you had more of that, let's say, for Heroes of the Storm, it might still be around. And not in maintenance mode. But if that's something you're interested, get on down to your Kroger website and buy, or Kroger itself, and buy some trolleys. Get yourself some tabards. And while you're doing that, Jez, do you have a car?
No, my girlfriend does though. I'm a passenger princess.
Okay, look at you, passenger princess. I, as you can imagine, living in the suburbia of America, I have a vehicle. Do you have a familiarity with the driving app Waze?
I do now.
Well, I had only, seen this around. I'd never used it myself. Google Maps was always sufficient, but now Waze has become the superior product for one reason, and for one reason only, is that they have partnered with Blizzard, and there is essentially a Thrall, and I'm considering this a Chris Metzen voice pack that you can use on Waze, and it is Thrall talking to you and giving you directions on your trip, and you can change your car icon to a dragon. And I have never switched apps for anything faster in my entire life. Yeah, and I knew, right, we were going to record today, and yesterday I was on the road, and I knew I was going to have to be on the road for about 4 hours worth of driving to and from someplace. And so in the family vehicle, we put it on, and sure as shit, here he comes on and gives us, I don't want to spoil all the voice lines because they are pretty fucking great if you fire this thing up. But, it's like, turn right, and you're like, oh, I'm going to turn right. Okay, Thrall, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me. In a half a mile, turn left. You're like, yes, I'm going to do what Thrall is telling me. And then up ahead, like police ahead. I hope they have a dog. I like dogs. And like, we all are just cracking up fucking laughing.
It's funny.
It was awesome, and there's all kinds.
I'll have to try it. I hope it's available in Europe.
I know it's available here in the US. I think it might be. You have to fire it up and find out because it does seem like it's restricted.
We've got a TomTom thing. I don't know if it's like a proper sat nav. But
yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
I might I'm gonna have to fire up Waze next time we go somewhere.
I think so.
There's a quarry near here, and we've been planning for ages to go fossil hunting because you can go there and they'll give you a pickaxe and let you go dig up fossils, and you can take them home.
That's pretty sweet.
When we go there, I'll fire it up and dig fossils while Thrall's advising me.
I even used it this morning when I had to go to the store and back. I'm like, all right, buddy, take me to the store, take me home. And it's the one thing I will say is, there's only so many voice lines that they can do, right? So depending on the trip, like the one yesterday I had, because I was in the Bay Area, and if you know anything about driving around in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland area, there are a lot of like highway exit changes, like you're kind of jumping on from one to another depending on the route and the traffic and whatnot. And so some of the voice lines were getting you would hear them and then you would hear them again and then you would hear them again, and there is some variation in there, and they were pretty great, but it's clearly meant for not that, because if you have to change certain types of interchanges or intersections or exits, like it's programmed to kind of give you different sayings. If you're like getting off a highway, say like, look for a good place to camp, it's like, exit here, keep an eye out for a good place to camp, stuff like that. I was like, yes, I will, Chris Metzen, because as I tweeted, this will be the closest I ever get to going on a road trip or driving in a car with my personal Lord and Savior. So you're damn right, I'm going to take him with me in this form and fashion, because it's as good as it's going to get. So if you are so inclined, that is out there right now for your enjoyment. One other thing I had that I wanted to talk about, Jez, a very important thing happened this week. A very important thing, something I have been waiting more than a decade for.
Oh.
My child, my progeny, my mini Zerker has finally, at last, started his own World of Warcraft account. And there has never been a more momentous occasion in my household, I think, than this. I've waited many years, and he finally got his grades to a point where I felt comfortable letting this happen. He made a hunter, which I protested, but this is what he wanted to do, and he made it as a Pandaren, which, listen, he wanted to roll with the pandas, both literally and figuratively, so fine.
That's an interesting combo.
It's a panda hunter.
You don't see many panda hunters.
No, but this isn't about min-maxing or anything like that. This is just the pure joy of like getting to make something and do something, right? And I knew, because this was his first foray into the game, that he would have to play through the much maligned starting area that you and I have talked about many times, about the nature of it, its difficulty level, how well it performs or guides you or teaches you, and all these kinds of things. So with really the freshest of fresh eyes and the most basic of skill levels, because he's not like a big gamer or anything like that in the sense of like what we do here on PCs, it was definitely a mixed bag for a newcomer, and he had a good time. He was enjoying the hell out of it, and even he said, Jez, it was too easy. And I know that that's kind of one of the laments, is like, well, it's kind of brain dead, I think, is maybe something you might have said at one point. And
brain dead, yeah.
He did seem to steamroll right through it, and there was a lot that was not explained about being a hunter, where there were just some concepts immediately right away. He had no idea, like, different pets do different things, or because he kept thinking he was going to fight in melee, but I'm like, no, that's something different than what you're doing here. And so there is, in fact, much left to be desired about the starting experience. Jez, I think you've been right all along about this, so I'm on board. I'm on the train. We gotta redo this again. And
yep.
The AI is fun. I love the AI. I think that's great, and that being a sort of a testing ground for that, I think has been a good idea. But yes, it even for the little chitlin here, it was too easy, and not enough was explained. But he's on. He's in. We're doing it, Jez. We're doing the thing. He's here. He wondered where his time lost proto Drake was, and I told him, no, that's mine on my account. You have to go camp your own for 3 weeks if that's what you want to do. And he was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. So very excited.
How old is he?
He is 13.
Yeah.
Right in the prime age. It's the time. It's when we hook them. It's when we get them. No more of that Minecraft. Forget all that. It's World of Warcraft time now. And he's, from his perspective, he's watched me his entire life doing raids, and he'll come wandering into my office, and he won't even say anything. He'll just kind of look over my shoulder. I'm like, oh, hey, buddy. And like, who's that? What's going on there? Who's this? Oh, hello to you too. Oh yeah, hi. What's going on there? What's this? Who's that guy? What's going on over there? Desperately interested, right? And I assume at some point he's gonna want to check out a raid and do some other stuff, and so we're gonna ramp that up incrementally. But very excited. Big day in our household. Last but not least, I'm gonna keep this one a little bit shorter. Jez, I don't know. Let's ask you a question about your knowledge of me at this point in time of our team up here. If I were to ask you what is my favorite expansion of all time, what would you say my favorite expansion of all time is?
I would guess Wrath.
You would be correct. It is Wrath of the Lich King. No story got me greater hooked into this game. There's no character that I love outside of Varian Wrynn more than the Lich King. And of that character, what would you say is the greatest paraphernalia connected with the Lich King?
I would say Frostmourne, probably.
Frostmourne. Once again, 10 points for the House of Corden. Correct. Frostmourne, much beloved, great design. It's been mimicked and sold in different places, including Diablo 4, but we're not going to talk about that anymore because I've already talked about that. In the real world, many, many, many years ago, back when I think Wrath was fresh, they did sell a replica of this, and I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500. It looked good. It seemed cool. I couldn't pony up that kind of money back then, so there was zero chance of that happening. But I always hoped, Jez, that one day they would bring it back because it is an iconic, all-time iconic weapon. One of the greatest, most recognizable things in Warcraft history. They did eventually bring it back, I believe, a couple of years ago. And then it went out of stock. They have brought it back again, and it is for sale right now, live as we speak. And Jez, what was once a near $500 item, somewhere thereabouts, how much in U.S. currency, United States dollars, do you think a Frostmourne replica costs today?
I'm kind of cheating because I already looked at the store page.
How much is it?
I know what it is in Great British pounds. It's £1,500. What is it in dollars? 1,500
United States American dollars.
See, that makes it $1,800 in Britain, roughly. So we have to pay extra for some reason. But it is not cheap. Are you planning to buy?
No.
No,
there's no, because here's not only that, it's $1,500 for the sword. But what are you going to do with it? You just going to throw it on the ground? You going to hide it in the closet? No, you got to what? You got to put it somewhere, right? The wall mount that they sell for this is $200. But even better, if you want a pedestal, I think they call it, that goes on the ground and lights up. It's like a big ice shard looking thing. You can stick that in there. $600. So you could spend more than $2,000 for a sword and basically a plastic stand with lights. And I love this thing, and it does look amazing, and all credit to the artists and people involved with making this thing. It does truly look phenomenal and amazing, but that is a price too high. If I won't pay for what is also an amazing Lich King piece, which is the skin for Reinhardt in Overwatch 2, with the collaboration they got going on right now between those two franchises, if I won't pay for that, don't think I'm paying $1,500 for a Frostmourne replica. That being said, Jez, thinking back across all of your gaming experience, all of the many years you've spent on Azeroth and beyond, World of Warcraft, Is there any single piece of anything that they could replicate that you would consider ponying up that kind of money for?
Honestly, Frostmourne, you know.
Yeah.
And I've looked at it and thought, oh man. But it's just can't justify it, man. Cannot justify the, you know, there's like so many other things I need to buy to live. I can't sort of justify this, and I think my girlfriend would probably murder me if I did buy it.
My
Andy,
wife
how would
do
you
the
feel
same.
if I bought? How would you feel, Andy, if I bought a €2,000 World of Warcraft sword? No, she just said no. Oh yeah, that's what you need to know about that.
I think that is the universal spouse answer, unless I don't know.
Yes.
You have two spouses that are like, yes, we must have this. And I see people that have this thing, like streamers that will have this like in the background hanging up in their house. And I guess I'm like, well, I guess if this is what you're making money off of and that helps you do it, I suppose you could consider that a business expense. But that's about the only way I could think of to make this reasonable. Because this is ultra collector status, right? Like this is, who is this even for? Would you say?
It's just people with money, you know.
Yeah.
I get Warcraft fans with money, you know. End of the day, and there's plenty of them. Plenty of them exist. I ain't one of them, but
I mean,
I did buy the Lilith statue. That was like $800.
ooh, yeah.
And I was, you know, that was about my limit, and I was like, man, should I have done this? You know, like second guessing myself almost. Was this a fiscally responsible thing for me to have done? But yeah, you know, it's not entirely without precedent that people would buy stuff like this. And you know, it makes money. You know, makes a lot of money for Blizz, I guess.
Yeah,
I hope the margins are good.
I hope so, because I've noticed that some of them, they have to have repeated. I'm sure you, like myself, get multiple emails about all the stuff in the store, and some of them they kind of have to keep plugging away at because I think the price is just too damn high on a few of these things. And they're like, maybe we didn't ship as many of these as we thought we were going to, or you know, whatever it was. Like I think it was either was it the Illidan one? Like Christ, that came out like 10 years ago, and I swear that thing was going to sell out and never come back. And I think you might still be able to get one because they were still selling them not that long ago. And I'm like, man, that $700 to $800 range, that really does seem to be the limit. So I think you're probably the most accurate example of the Blizzard consumer base, let's say, in terms of having free expenditures. But should you want it, dear listener, $1,500 and it can be yours. And if you do end up buying this, whoever you are, I would love to see a picture of it. So if somebody out there does end up getting this for their own home arsenal, I would love to see an actual picture of this thing to see how cool it is or good it is or what this whole getup looks like. So you know where to find me, but if you don't, you're going to hear it here in just a minute. All right. I think we've done enough damage for one episode. For those who don't already know, where can the good people find you on the internet, Jez?
Yes, you can find me on Threads at JezCorden, JZCORDEN, and pretty much everywhere with that username. And right here on Unshackled Fury, and also on the Xbox 2 podcast if you are interested in Xbox and Microsoft general news. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
There it is. My thanks to you all for listening to today's nonsense. And remember, you can always follow me and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury, on Blue Sky at Berserker and Unshackled Fury, as well as on Twitch at Unshackled Fury and Real Berserker. You can also join our Discord, links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and on our Bonus Roll Productions page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or on shackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.